Guys, it's Jacob with the Degenerate Gambling Life, and we have another great episode for you today. We're going to be talking about more sleepers in redraft leagues, starting with Kirk Cousins. Currently, he has an ADP of 128.1. He's coming off the board as the QB 21 after finishing seventh in points per game at the position last year. I think Cousins, you could argue that his situation has upgraded. He's got a better running game, and he has Drake London and Kyle Pitts surrounding him. He's got a very good offensive core there in Atlanta, and I think he's going to be still an elite quarterback this season and a huge sleeper in redraft. And then we also have Trevor Lawrence. He's going off at an ADP of 128.8. That's QB 22 off the board, so right after Cousins. Lawrence just signed a massive extension. They picked up Brian Thomas Jr. for him in the draft, and I think he is ready to produce at a top 10 level this year. I think he's a great guy to snag as your QB2 and hope he really pans out. Like him in best ball, and I like him in redraft formats. Moving on to running back, I'm going to talk about James Cook. He's coming off the board at a 41.4 ADP. That's behind Joe Mixon and right above David Montgomery, who is a backup running back. I think you're getting great value on this pick. Buffalo is going to probably have to run the ball more this season, and James Cook proved to be efficient in the running and passing game. So definitely snag him up and get that value. Moving on, we have DeAndre Hopkins at 108.8, the wide receiver 41 off the board after being wide receiver 22 last season. He has a good connection with Will Levis. And I think if you're going to get wide receiver 2 production in the second round, that's a very good value proposition. I would snag up Hopkins all day at this valuation. Wide receiver 41 is way too low, and I'll be drafting him in a lot of leagues. Moving on, we have Curtis Samuel at a 129.7 ADP. That's wide receiver 51 off the board this season. And even though he was only wide receiver 42 last year, he has an opportunity to be wide receiver 2 in Buffalo. That's going to be a very good role to have. I could see him cracking the top 30 or top 25 this season. So definitely get that value there.
This week's fantasy football debate, kickers and defense. Should they be in your fantasy league? Absolutely, because you're building a fantasy football team, not just a fantasy football offense. I get it. Defense isn't very glamorous, but as the cliche goes, defense wins championships. And why don't you take a look at the top 20 NFL all-time scorers? They're all kickers. Listen, NFL games come down to a kicker making or missing a field goal, and so should your fantasy football matchups.
Jumping into the cons of why you shouldn't have defenses and kickers. First, they're wildly inconsistent week to week. I do the defenses to stream, and I'm lucky if I hit on half of them. I mean, you just never know. Number two, it's hard to depend on them even for 3 points. Kind of goes into wildly inconsistent. And finally, defenses pretty regularly will go into the negative, and not too many other positions do that. So those are the cons, and I really don't think Jordan's pros win and add up. Now, we want to thank Becky for reaching out and saying she wanted us to debate this. If anyone else has a topic you would like for us to debate, please leave in the comments.
Excuse me, sir. Would you like another hot take?
Yeah, definitely. Keep them coming.
Okay, all this week's hot takes are going to be about the NBA. First off, the New York Knicks. Love the trades, the signings, what they're doing on that team. They will win the Eastern Conference next year if they stay healthy. They have put together a fantastic team, bringing all those Villanova guys together. Hurts me saying Villanova since I went to St. John's, but it is what it is. Next, the Mavericks. You guys made a huge mistake signing Clay. All right, the guy's going to be 35 next year, and his legs are going under. He can shoot the three, but I question his defense, and defense is what really has been hurting you guys with Luka and Kyrie. So not a good signing on your guys' part. Finally, the Lakers. They will at best be a play-in team once again. Man, LeBron, he's trying to play GM with all the rumors I'm hearing. Got his son. I'm glad their first round pick was decent, but no. Lakers, you guys aren't going to win a championship next year.
Thanks, Josh. I got a hot take this week from the European Championships and one from Copa America. We'll start with the European Championships. Switzerland will beat England this coming weekend. England just hasn't been doing enough. As a group winner, they probably had the worst performance of any group winner in the history of any major tournament. They scraped through, barely beating Serbia, tying their next couple matches. It was not pretty. And then to go along in their first knockout stage game against Slovakia, they were losing for 96 minutes. And Jude Bellingham wonder goal bicycle kick sends it in extra time, where they of course ended up winning to move on to play Switzerland. But I don't see them taking down Switzerland. As for Copa America, let's just end the tournament now. Give it to Argentina. They're the best team in it, and that's that. Jacob, what you got for us?
Thank you, Jordan. And my hot take for the week is that JJ Redick and Bronny James will work out for the Lakers. I know a lot of people don't like the moves. They say that JJ Redick is inexperienced, and he is, but I think he has a very good basketball mind and could do quite well with the Lakers as their head coach. And when it comes to Bronny James, I mean, we have to remember he did have a cardiac arrest before the season, so maybe we haven't seen his best basketball yet in college. He has an opportunity to develop in LA and play with his father and learn from the best to ever play the game. So I like the pick. I think it will be very cool to see Bronny and LeBron playing together, and I think the Lakers may be able to do something next season.
My hot take of the week is that the Baltimore Ravens are the best team in the league, and they are the team to beat. I'd like you to just take a second to think about this from a neutral standpoint. When was the last time you saw a dynamic duo like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on the same team? Think about it. Take as long as you like, because you've never seen it before. And it's going to be something very special this year. Mark my words.
This is a poker hand I played at Shuffle 512 in Austin, Texas. In this hand, the straddle was on, so we were playing 125. The hijack opened at 20, and I 3-bet on the button with ace queen offsuit to 65. Now the straddle cold calls and the hijack calls as well. The flop comes ace jack 10 rainbow, so we flop top pair with a gut shot. It checks to me, and I like to bet small here for $50. I think all of my range wants to bet small on this board, so even if I had king queen here, I would choose the same sizing. The straddle does call and the hijack folds. Now the turn comes in 8, completing the rainbow. It checks to me, and I probably should keep betting here, but I do check back this time. The river comes at 7, bringing a one-liner to a 9, and it's going to kill me when he checks here and I check back again to not go for value. But I do think checking back is the right play here because even though he's not going to have a 9 very often, I also think he's going to check with 2 pair a lot here, and there's a lot of ace-x hands that are beating us. We're not beating many hands that can call us, and he's probably not going to call with just a jack. So I do check back this time, and we win the pot. This was another hand I played from Shuffle 512. In this hand, the under the gun plus 2 raised to 10. And here, sensing some weakness, I 3-bet with 10-8 offsuit from the cutoff and get called by the button, small blind, and original opener. So we're going 4 ways with a very speculative hand to a flop that comes 7-9-4 with 2 spades. We flop an open ender and a backdoor flush draw. About as good as we could hope with this hand. Action checks to me, and even though I flopped a great draw, I would usually check all of my hands on this board, so I do check this time with a strong draw, so I can make some disguised nut hands. The button also checks, and we go to a turn which comes the jack of diamonds. We turn the nuts. Now the small blind leads for $40. The plus 2 calls. I raise to 120, and the button folds. The small blind goes all in for 168, and the plus 2 also goes all in for 250. What's going on? We have the dream spot here, and we make the call and end up holding in a massive pot versus Jack 9 and a mucked hand in a spot that we won't usually have 10-8, and we take down a nice pot.
All right, a couple of hands from our meetup game at Bally's. First one, we're playing 1-3, and we look down at 6-9 of diamonds in the big blind. I raise to $16, and we get 3 callers. So we go to a flop. The flop is amazing. It is the 10 of spades, 8 of diamonds, and 7 of hearts. I raise to 33, and we get 2 callers, which we're not hating on a rainbow board. The turn is the 10 of hearts. I bet 58 now, and the low jack raises to 100. The cutoff had 122, and they go all in, and both of us obviously call. The river is the 9 of spades, which I hate because I'm pretty sure the cutoff had a 6, just the way they've been playing. I go all in, and knowing that the cutoff's a chop, but the low jack debates and debates, and he finds a call, thankfully, and he shows 10 deuce of clubs, and the cutoff did call with 7-6 offsuit, so we chop up the main pot. Didn't love chopping that, but again, we scooped the majority of it, and it was a great time. The guy who had the 10 deuce, really fun playing with him. So hopefully he's watching this video. Still a meetup game at Bowie's. We are playing 1-3, and I straddle to 6. We get like 6 callers, and when it comes to me, I look down at pocket aces. So we raise to $48, and we end up with 4 callers, so we go to the flop. The flop is the 10 of clubs, the 6 of clubs, the 3 of hearts. I lead for $82, and we get 2 callers, one of them being all in. The turn is the jack of diamonds. I bet 178. Middle position calls, and it's debating on put him on a flush draw. Now I do a very dumb thing because I've been drinking, wasn't thinking, and it's a meetup game, and I go all in the dark for 348. The river, of course, the ace of clubs mocking me. I mean, for it, the dealer lays it down. I'm seeing it's the ace of clubs, and of course, the middle position snap calls. He shows that he had king 5 of clubs and scoops. Now, the guy that had king 5 of clubs, he plays over at the fort, near Fort Worth, Texas. Want to shout out to him. He's a real cool, fun guy. Sorry that I got a little annoyed. We weren't drinking or anything. I did play a little bit different because I was trying to push the guy off because I knew he had a draw. But going all in the dark and everything, that completely me. I never should have done that. I put you on the flush draw. You know, 1, 2 outcomes. If it doesn't come flush, you're not calling. It comes a flush. What happened happened. Again, sorry for being a little annoyed. I did check your hand and everything. Stupid decision by me. But at the end, glad that the table overall had a really good time for most of the night at the meetup game.
Welcome to Miller Time. I'm Kevin Miller with the Degenerate Gambling Life, and on today's episode, I'm going to discuss the top 5 veterans that are going to have very good fantasy seasons. And we're just mainly talking about redraft, but these guys are going to perform no matter what the format is. And the term veteran can be used pretty loosely because some people will say veteran after a player has just been in the league for a few years. But I'm talking about players that are going to be exiting the league in the next few years and are going to have 1 or 2 more final good seasons. So without further ado, let's jump into it. At number 5, Terry McLaurin on the Washington Commanders. I do think he has a longer shelf life than the rest of the guys on this list that I have yet to name, but I think he's poised for a top 15 season with Jaden Daniels at the helm. They're going to have a vertical passing offense. He's clearly the number 1 target on that offense, and I'd be looking to target Terry McLaurin in the middle rounds. At number 4, we have running back Alvin Kamara on the New Orleans Saints. They do have Kendry Miller, who's looking like he's going to be on the rise, but Alvin Kamara is just a top 10 PPR machine. He's going to catch passes. The Saints are going to be bad. He's going to get a ton of targets and catches, and even though he's never had 1,000 rushing yards, that's never stopped him from being an elite fantasy option. So don't forget about Alvin Kamara, especially if you wait on running backs and you need a solid RB2, or if you just completely ignore the position, he can be your anchor RB your hero RB in the middle rounds. At number 3, we have wide receiver Cooper Kupp on the Los Angeles Rams, my beloved LA Rams. Yes, Puka Nacua is there, and he's probably going to be the more consistent option. He's younger. He hasn't had a bunch of major injuries throughout his career, but Cooper Kupp has proven to have that connection with Matthew Stafford that won them a Super Bowl. That doesn't just go away because a younger, talented player joined the team. I think Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua can both be top 15 to 20 options this year, and they might take turns swinging the bat over the fences. But don't forget about Cooper Kupp in round 3, and if he falls to round 4, you have to take him. At number 2, we have wide receiver Mike Evans on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I shouldn't have to sell this one because he's never not had 1,000 yards in his entire career. There's not a single other receiver in the history of the NFL that's played as long as he has that you can say that about. So he's a first ballot Hall of Famer to me, and he's just going to keep putting up 1,000 yards until he doesn't. So I'd buy into Mike Evans, especially if you can get him in the 3rd round. Don't spend a round 2 pick on him. Let him fall to round 3 and nab him up. And my number 1 veteran that I'm targeting is wide receiver Tyreek Hill on the Miami Dolphins. This one scares me a little bit because I do think there are safer options in the 1st round, But as we saw through the first 10 weeks of last year, he can be the number one wide receiver in the league in fantasy. So I think he's got a couple more years in him before the screws fall off. And I'd be looking to buy into Tyreek Hill, especially if CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson are already gone. He's my wide receiver 3 on the board, and you can usually get him in the middle of the first round. So those are my veterans to buy into. Let me know if you disagree with any of these picks or if there's someone that I left off this list. Make sure you guys hit like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It's free to do so and helps support the channel and all the content that we create. And with that being said, Miller time, out.
Soccer hooligans.
Hot off the press with another edition of the Added Minutes with your boy Jordan Tennis. We had some European action kicking off this past week, some Copa too, but we'll do the Euro first. We had Italy, last edition's winners, the current European champions. I said that they wouldn't win this year, and they are knocked out. Get them out of here. They're done. Finito, okay? Don't have to worry about them anymore. We did have some interesting things lining up, though. This Friday, we have Spain, who absolutely cruised 4-1 over Georgia in their first knockout round match against Germany, the hosts. These are two of the top 3 teams, in my opinion, left in the tournament, and they are going to face off on Friday, so that should be great to see. They are on the same half of the bracket as France, who I personally think is going to win it all. So, those 3 teams are the 3 best teams left in the tournament, in my opinion. I know England's still in, but they, like I mentioned earlier, they're going to lose to Switzerland this weekend, so it doesn't even matter because the winner is going to be coming out of this side of the bracket. It's going to be Germany, Spain, or France. I'm rolling with France. They're the best team, in my opinion, in Europe right now. Spain's playing phenomenal, but they're young. Germany's playing great, and they have the home fans, but it's going to be France coming from that side. Rolling over to Copa, we had the United States men's national team needing a result against Panama this past Thursday. However, Timothy Weah in the 18th minute gets a red card. They have to play a man down the rest of the game. But it wasn't too bad at the beginning because 5 minutes after the red card, USA went up 1-0. And it was looking like things would be okay. But Panama quickly tied it up 1-1. Panama goes up 2-1, ends up winning that. USA has to win against Uruguay because, let's face it, Panama's going to beat Bolivia in their game. Both those games took place yesterday, so we'll see how things shook out there. As far as other groups in the Copa America, Argentina, they're advancing. They're going to win the whole thing. Mexico, they're done. Venezuela surprisingly won that group, so shout out to Venezuela. They are advancing with Ecuador. Mexico's done. They're out. Like the Italians. Finito, okay? That's what we got for you guys this week on the Added Minutes. We'll see you guys next week.
Let's jump into a little fantasy baseball. We're going to be talking about prospects and how they're doing or coming up. First, we have James Wood, Nationals. He's an outfielder. He's available still in 39% weeks. The hype on this guy is huge. He was a top 10 MLB prospect, huge home run and RBI upside. So if you're someone that likes to hurry up and grab things, even though we'll see how they do, James Wood, Washington Nationals. Next, Wyatt Langford, Texas Rangers. He's an outfielder available in 21% leagues. Did exactly what I said if you've been watching us, okay? He came up, he struggled because his power hitter went down with an injury, stayed in the minor leagues, figured some things out, and now he has been sizzling. He's been player 43 the last month. He gives you 11 runs, 3 home runs, 22 RBIs, 6 stolen bases, and a 309 average. And just yesterday, he hit for the cycle. Continue to see good things from him. He might struggle a little bit, but hopefully all you need is that little bit to go down and click. And finally, Keston Herstead on the Baltimore Orioles. Sorry for butchering names. That's what I do. He is an outfielder. He is available in 64% of leagues. All right. They kind of bob him up and down, but his bat is for real. His batting average, always sky high. He also offers you some home runs and runs. So if you're needing someone else and you're in a super deep league, grab that guy. He will help you in the batting average, which is a stat that a lot of people struggle in. So hopefully those guys help you for fantasy baseball this week. For all of those of you that made it all the way to end, thank you so much. We appreciate it. If you haven't yet, please hit that like, comment, and subscribe. Share if you really want to. We appreciate it. Now, we're going to have a fantasy football draft and probably play some poker as well. We're going to try to have a meetup game in Austin, Texas at the end of the July. We'll have some details hopefully coming pretty quickly. Our website is live. Check it out if you want some merch. People have been loving the hats we have and shirts. Finally, in August, we will be back in Vegas again. Go in there for the killers, but we're going to have a fantasy football draft and also a couple of meetup games. We will get you the details. Until we talk to you again next week, have a fantastic 4th of July. See you guys all next week.